My dear comrades, I am Admiral Andre, and yes, I admit it, I have failed you. I said I would upload within a week since my last video, and I failed in that respect. But to my own credit, I did record an episode of Evil Bank Manager. I found that very interesting, and I recorded an episode of that. But then at the end I just thought, no, I'm not going to upload this. I still have it lying around, but I don't know, it just wasn't quite working, you know. But at any rate, also I before actually I did the last video for New Year, I did 2 more episodes for Transport Fever for the next mission in the campaign. But I also felt I was too rusty with that and I didn't get any of the medals, so I just also didn't upload that. Now I hope that trend does not continue, because there's no sense making episodes and then not uploading them. But at any rate, today I just felt in the mood to play around with Kerbal, and I was busy building the UR-700, and then at the end I thought, why do I not make a YouTube video for that? Let's do the mission. Now of course I have to give the caveat that we all know Matt Lown did a video for the UR-700, so before you accuse me of stealing that, I acknowledge that it exists, and many others as well. But I did take 1 or 2 notes from Matt Lown's book there, but I did do the design completely differently. But of course the whole point is not to be different or the same or anything. It's just to see what we can do with what we have. And of course no one's take will be exactly the same as anyone else's. But yes, I acknowledge it there, so now no one has to accuse me of stealing anything. Right, so the next point I just want to make, it's very hot here now in Cape Town. It's midsummer now, and for the next month we'll be dying from the heat here, which I know is something that a lot of people will be jealous of, especially very far north in the northern hemisphere where they're freezing right now. But my computer fan is just going crazy here, so I'm going to do my best to nullify that with Audacity as I usually do. But just if it sounds a little strange, you'll know why. Right, now the first thing I want to do is just show you again, like we always do, because I think that's, I don't know, it's a different kind of thing. I know other YouTubers don't really do that, but I like to do that. Just to show you again in, Google Images and all of that, where I get my inspiration and all of that. Just because it's interesting if you want to also follow that up and see the choices that I made and where you could do it differently as well. So let's have a look at that quickly, and then we will get back into the VAB where we belong. That is the proper place for a comrade. At any rate, also I just want to mention this version of the UR-700 is still a very rough one. This is something I just put together in the last hour or so we can continue working on that, and I'd love to hear your suggestions for that. And also then we could try, if I can find more information about it, there was a plan, I'll show you that in a moment, for a Soviet lunar base to be launched with the UR-700. So that's also something interesting to have a look at. I'm just using the normal red flag here from KSP. I haven't uploaded the Soviet flag, but that will suffice. That's the red Kerbal flag. Anyway, see you soon, comrades. Right, so comrades, let's just have a very quick look through some of these images. You'll see there in the corner I've been listening to some Soviet marches to get me in the spirit for this mission. But at any rate, I'm not going to go into incredible detail here now. This is just a rough version of the UR-700. But we can see here the very design. This is now the top stage, of course. And the very design of it here clearly shows that there is an aerodynamic, almost like a fairing covering the whole top of the, upper stage here. Now, obviously, I can't recreate that, so I'm going to have to take some liberties there. Also, I have no idea what some of these things are on the upper stage, and I have not yet put a ladder in. I know. Sometimes when you're building these things, that stuff takes the last priority. Also, the dish here, I do have a dish. We can see clearly that it's right at the very top of the capsule here, but it is angled. Now, of course, that would change depending on where Earth is relative to the landing site. So for us, it's just going to point straight up. Basically, just keep it simple there. Let's have a look at some other ones. Here we see the upper stage taking off from the moon. Now, how many of these landing legs are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. I assume there are 6 because we can see there's 2 on the back there as well. So I'll keep that. And we see also that there's a bottom skirting like a fairing that hides the engine until takeoff. So we will land with that attached to the craft there. Then this is another take on the upper stage that we just saw without that whole aerodynamic capsule on top, basically, you know, the angles and all of that. So we'll try to recreate that, of course, within limits. Engines, they're all the same here, so I'm going to be using the equivalent to the J2 engine that we used for the Apollo mission. Anything else here? Okay, this is just the whole story. You can look this up if you want. I'm not going to go through everything here. But and this is on astronautics, which is, of course, a very useful resource. Actually, there is one thing I still want to have a look at some point. That's why I left the page open. Because the UR-700 was, obviously it was never built like, you know, the complete version. But it was planned that it was actually going to do something interesting after the, you know, normal manned missions there. Let me just see where that is. This thing here, this I find interesting, and I'd like to get more information on this in the future. Following initial LK-700 landings, now that's the capsule here that we've been looking at. The LKE Lunar Expeditionary Complex, now that's what I'm looking for, would be delivered to the surface. This would permit long-duration investigations of the surface and a much wider range of research. Now, this is basically like a lunar station. We can see it here. Launch number 1 is the heavy unpiloted station, a one-way flight to deliver the lunar station to the surface. Launch number 2 would take the crew, and number 3 would take a laboratory and possibly a heavy lunokhod rover or vehicle there to provide mobility. Now this is interesting, and this is a corollary to the missions that I've been doing previously with the Apollo extension service there. So this would be interesting. I want to find more information about this, but I'll keep that in mind for the future. This is just the same image there. Now this, of course, is just the Google images again. Now here I can find some interesting things. Now these are, of course, renders here. You can see the creator Nick Stevens there. So obviously I'm sure he took his own liberties there. But this is interesting because it provides us with several different angles. And if we just have a look here, we can see that sort of intermediary stage. The engines are like the Proton. All sorts of things. You can have a look at this if you want. So I just used this as my basic template for the design. Now obviously again we have our limitations in Kerbal, so we can't recreate everything exactly. But that's alright, you know. It's a challenge. It challenges us to see what we can do. Right, so that's it. I'm not going to go into much more detail here than that. This was always one I found interesting, because this shows the actual sequence of the separation of the stages. Now obviously it launches with the thing. Now here we can actually see, and this I also replicated, and I know Matt Lown did not do that. And I'm not sure what the actual thing was, because here we can see as well the boosters separate in pairs there, attached to one another. But in this graphic that I was just looking at, you can see the boosters separate individually. Now, just for simplicity's sake, I'm doing it like this for now. So it'll be quite a bit of rockets falling down on the ground there. Then we separate, we can actually see right there a very small detail. That's interesting. It's while the bottom stage is still burning, this shroud separation is happening. I didn't notice that before. That is this thing here, the shroud on the top of the upper stage there. So that separates while the bottom thing is still burning. I'll have to make an adjustment to that. Then that separates and we have this intermediate stage with a sort of proton engines. And then that separates. Now we're in a parking orbit. Now I'm going to separate that before we reach orbit because I want to minimize debris. Then we burn to the moon and then we separate those exterior upper stage boosters. So that just leaves us then with a single part here. So we'll try to replicate that and see what we can do. Of course, as I've said, we should make a name for this. You know, there's a rule 34, but this will be another kind of rule. Let's say rule number 175, that if there's anything to do with space, there will be a Kerbal recreation somewhere. You see, there's a really nice one as well. I haven't seen that one yet. So, yes, that's rule number 100 and what? 57. Let's say 157. So I'll refer to that in the future again. Anyway, comrades, I'll see you in the game just now. Right, comrades, here we are back in our natural habitat here. Now, the frames are dropping right now because there are so many parts here, and I'm afraid it's only going to get worse if we add even more. But at any rate, here we are. So, I'm not going to go into all of the depth here, and like I said, this is not the final version. This is sort of a final draft version. Now, of course, I'm just using the normal choices here, just like we did with the Apollo mission with the escape system, the capsule as well, and of course our antenna is hidden inside those decouplers there. They're not actually active, they're disabled except for the bottom one. I put some RCS on just because I think this craft is a very unwieldy one, so it will help us even though the wheel authority is at 100%. Now this is where I did borrow from Matt Lown in terms of the service bay here, also with a slight angling here of the landing struts. However, I do have 6 of them and they're not quite as aggressively angled. I think it might still give a problem because in the one single test that I did for this vehicle, I don't know if it's what's going on here, but there's still way too much bounce in these legs. Now, I know people are still complaining about that and also about the wheels, but we'll just have to try our best and land as softly as possible. Now here's the upper part. This is going to be kind of like a fairing because of course we can't do a single fairing to cover all of these 3 and the top capsule in a form-fitting kind of a way. So we'll detach this. I just have to change the point at which that happens. I think it's... good grief. So it's after... Now I just have to think. At what point is it happening now? I think it's stage 11 here. And I still don't like how the stages are actually reversed. Obviously in real life we start at the bottom with stage 1. At any rate, if we just go right back down to the bottom, I'm using the mainsail engines here and I keep the same diameter of tanks all the way through, even though I know the real one does have a slight variation there. But let me just see. So while this one is still burning, we have to detach those upper cones there for the aerodynamics. Now this will be, let's just see. So it will be before this one here. So stage 13. So it should be stage 14 then. So 11 should move there. I hope I got that right. It's a bit low in the atmosphere to be ditching these things, but oh well. We'll see what we can make of that. Also, I'm using some of these struts all over the place. I try to make them look relatively nice, but just for extra support. Same on the bottom as well. And also in between these various tanks because they tend to rapidly unplanned disassemble themselves if I don't do that. I'm also using fuel pipes here so that we can feed the fuel from the boosters into the central tank. And I am not doing that on the top, but we just have the normal crossfeed in the decoupler there. It doesn't seem to work on the bottom. I guess it's too complex here because we have two individual boosters feeding into the center, and it just gets too much. But we'll see what we can do. Just see, okay, that is still where it should be. I'm also still using Kerbal Engineer because even though we have the one now, it still gives us a lot more information in terms of inclination and apoapse and all of that. That's always useful. Right, and the final point I should make is I am still using the life support, TAC life support mod here. So I'll take this off and then upload this craft to the Steam workshop as usual, but just actually not as usual. Mostly I never did that, but remember, just this is a work in progress, so there are some refinements that we still need to make. But I will take off the TAC life support. That's the only non-stock part that I'm using. Of course, if you have making history as well. Close that. Right, who shall we take for this mission? Let's just have a look. Take out everyone here, and of course Valentina has to go. Let's just see. So we have one pilot, one scientist, and one engineer, I think. Let's just move this out of the way. Engineer. Let's take Agabo. I think we used her for the South African capsule that I made a long time ago. And one scientist, Franklin, why not? There we go. I'll just save this again and I will meet you in the desert, our Baikonur equivalent. Wish us luck. Right, here we are. Now again I have to say the frames are not looking healthy at the moment, and it's because of all the clouds and everything, but it's much worse when I'm actually recording, so I beg your forgiveness for that, comrades. Once we launch, it will be a bit easier, especially once we get past the clouds. But here we can see, I think the overall shape of the UR-700 is visible here, so I'm happy with that. That's at least something. Of course, there are a few differences between this one and the real one for obvious reasons, but at least we have kind of the right direction. So let's launch this thing and see what we can do. Let's hope it's not going to be too troublesome. Now we will of course have a slight inclination, but that's not a problem. So let's try this thing. Slight bit of lag there, and we are only getting 11 frames per second at the moment. That is not good. At any rate, there we go. I did tweak the main cells. They're a little bit too powerful, and then also we're using the shuttle engines there in the middle. It's basically the only one I could get to fit there, but it is down-rated as well. Right, 14 frames, that's a bit better. Now in the one test again that I did, I make a turn just after we hit 100 meters per second, but not quite to the 80-degree mark, so I just have to keep that in mind. Yes, that's not good. I really have to adjust these settings. It's getting to the point where we're having so many parts and so many graphics mods here that the frames are really suffering too much. Right, we're at 100, so I want to turn very gradually. Just there, no further than that. If I go too much, it's not good. Yes, there's more of a delay than last time. It's because of the recording. But it's going stable at least. So let's just wait a little bit more until it follows the prograde. Or the prograde catches up there. And then I'm just going to lock it. And then we'll see, we hope for the best. It's again quite finicky, just like the N1 that I built before. You have to make your turn at the right time, otherwise you're going to go either too shallowly or too steeply. But I think this might work well. These damn clouds. Maybe I should look into updating these mods. I have not done that yet. So that might also be a problem if there's an update available. If we look up, it's better. 15 frames now, so let's rather do that. Right, if we look here at the delta V meter, it's actually the same as the one here. We can see when we're going to stage, so we can prepare for that. There's a definite frame drop when I look down at the clouds, so let's not do that. Right, 100 meters per second, and say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and ditch. Now of course there's a bit of a pause there, but there we go. So they're all individual segments. That is something we can still change, but for now, just for the ease of use, I think that just makes it simpler there. So now, according to that graphic that we saw, we have to ditch the fairing things on the top while this bottom stage is still burning. Now unfortunately the delta V here is broken now, but we can still see it down here, so we can estimate how long we still have. I like to wait until we're at least in the 30 kilometer range, just because we're still a bit low in the atmosphere, and of course this is the point where people can get heating effects, but we're going too slowly for that. I'm just not too sure if we should separate those at this point, because they might just come back and hit us. Let's wait a little bit longer. But things are going well. I think we made a good turn there. This is a good range here. And it doesn't look too bad. I can say that, you know, it's an unconventional rocket, but I like the way it turned out. And you can take it apart when I upload it to the Steam workshop, just so that you can see what's going on. I just used some of those structural tubes running down the middle to attach these stages to. Alright, I think now let's do number 0 and we get rid of the escape system, and then we also do the next one twice. Don't fall back. Alright, it's good. Okay, that worked out well. At least that's a relief. So now I have these sort of flat adapter things on the top. Just, you know, it's not really for aerodynamic purposes, but just gives the kind of impression that the real one, or the planned real one, had. Right, so we're almost at the point of cutting this stage. 40, 30, 20, 10, and it's gone. So we separate that and fire the next one. Still a bit of a lag here. It's only still 15 frames per second. But there we go. And I like the shape of this stage right here. This looks kind of nice. I also used some of these nose cones you'll see right there, just in between on each side, so that the engine looks like it's attaching to something there. So yes, and now we can also see the antenna right there on the top. Now let's just escape the atmosphere here. We are going quite shallow, but at this point I think it's fine. Just get us out of the atmosphere, then we should start to see some better performance here. Might be time to start thinking about upgrading my computer as well. But I guess that will have to wait for a little while. We'll just have to turn off some of the mods for now. Right, I think this is actually a quite efficient ascent. Just have to watch the periap so it doesn't go too much above 0, because I want to dump this stage where it's still going to go back down into the atmosphere. Right, we're going a bit high now, so 125 I cut the engine, and now we can just coast to our apoapse, and it's above the atmosphere now, so we can deploy the antenna. Still only getting 15 frames. Really is the mods, but it's Also because of the recording. Now it's going up to 17, so at least that's something. Right, so there's the antenna, and we have 4 minutes remaining. I put enough life support on here for 30 days, so that's quite a good time for a nice extensive walk on the moon's surface there. But I think the real one, I'm not sure. I saw something about 45 days, but I don't know if that was actually life support 45. Right, I think let's speed it up. Okay, just to this point, and this is where the RCS actually becomes extremely useful. Just because it's so sluggish here. Also, I turned off the RCS on the capsule. We don't want to use that now. I think we might actually just start the burn. That will also help us. I turned the gimbling down on these engines, otherwise things can get really out of control. We could have even separated this stage. We just have a little bit of a burn left. But for efficiency's sake, why not? Right, it's just above 0, so we're gonna get rid of it now. And there it goes. So of course we have also these kind of fairings on the bottom covering the engines there. So we'll just make a slight burn now. Just move us away from that. We still have a bit of time before the apoapse. The auto-saving is also not helping. Okay, let's just get this into a roughly circular orbit. Right, we're there. Good. So let's F5 now, just in case. It does make a slight difference now, still looking down at the planet versus out into space. Oh well, it won't last much longer. We'll get much better performance very soon, as long as we just leave low Kerbal orbit. Might also be because there's just so much stuff here now. We still have our Mir station waiting for some TLC there. What else is here? There's the South African station. There's us. Discovery probe. I don't even remember what that is. Atlantis probe. Arrow. What was the Arrow? Good grief. There's the RSA-4. I can remember us launching that. And also we launched all those mini satellites here. I think there's one of them still floating around here. Somewhere. Anyway, let's plan our trajectory now to the moon. Just say set as target, and somewhere around here. I think we're going to do a collision course. Again, just for the sake of getting rid of debris. Come on. Just have to move this a little. Strange little lag there as well. Now, of course, we have quite the angle here. We just miss it, maybe a bit more. It's a lot more than a traditional lunar trajectory here. We've got over 1,000 meters now, but we still have that, so it's fine. Of course, this craft is a huge overkill in terms of the fuel, and this is quite empty as well. The same was true for the lower stages, so we can take this thing pretty much anywhere in the Kerbal system, I guess. Though, of course, just like Matt Lown mentioned, there is a plan, or was a plan, for a UR-900. That was the actual Mars vehicle. So we've got 7 minutes. Just get us into the right facing here. Again, where the RCS is quite useful. I have to say, for those of you in winter right now, I am quite envious because I'm sweating here. It's just so hot now, but anyway, and of course the computer doesn't like that as well. But that is just how it is here. Right, 1 minute, just slow down here. Also, well, the good thing about living in Cape Town, most of South Africa really, is that in winter we never get to freezing. I mean, when it's 10 degrees Celsius here in winter, we are just complaining about the cold the whole time. And it doesn't get much below that ever, and we never ever get snow here either. So there is always a plus side. Right, start the burn in 2 seconds. 1 and go. I also downrated these engines just because most of the tanks are half empty anyway. I don't want us to have too much of a G-force here. Now it's just burning, and of course the angle here does make it quite difficult. It would be much easier launching from the equator, but of course the Soviets would have had to deal with this in real life, and of course they did for many of their missions. Maybe we can turn the lights on. Whoops, 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 whoops. Don't deploy the gears now. Unintended disassemblies might happen. Right, I overdid it a little bit. That's not good. Let's retrograde a little. Don't want all of this debris floating around here. Doesn't really matter, it's on an escape trajectory anyway. Maybe we'll just leave it. Why not? Just get rid of it. Right now we still have a bit of fuel here, 896 meters per second, which is of course never a good thing to waste. But the central tank is decent. I think we have enough here. It shouldn't be overkill anyway, so we're gonna dump this stuff. Let's just F5 again and get rid of it. There it goes. So now we can just coast to the moon, and now things will look much better performance wise. Right, just get away from those clouds, please. Okay, so what do we get? 18 kilometers. That is not bad at all. So we can just do a orbital insertion burn there. Actually, we're almost at the retrograde, so I'm just going to say warp to Periaps. And actually, I'm wondering, because I'm still only getting 15 frames, so it must be something else. I need to look into this. Anyway, retrograde please, and let us burn. We are already past the Periaps there, but that doesn't really matter. We should just push it back down to the horizon a little bit. And of course, just watch what happens here. Now, there's so many things here around the moon already. Let's see. We have the N1L3 ship relay. We have the Apollo 20, the N1L3, a Rigel lander. I think I did that off camera. It was just an experiment. LISA cargo lander. That I still want to recreate for the Apollo extension missions. There's Apollo 21. Landing beacon. Not even sure what all of that is. Still getting too much of a slowdown here. But we're almost there. Let's see. I have no idea where I'm going to land yet. Unfortunately, it's nighttime on the Kerbal facing side, so that is not good either. Okay, that's going to be 20, so let's get this one roughly the same altitude. Okay, it's coming closer, so let's go back to retrograde. It's flipping there almost. Slightly overdid it there. Right, close enough. 19 by 21. F5 again. Let's be sensible. And then, I wonder if we'll have a signal here. We probably will, even though it's not facing Kerbal. It's close enough. And we might be able to bounce a signal off one of the other objects. So let's do that. We'll pick this as our landing site. That crater certainly doesn't get enough attention there. Now we'll just plan the thing here. We still have 485 meters left. Not a lot, I have to say, but it should be enough. Now we have 16 minutes left, so let's just fast forward and change my camera to free. I want to feel that the moon is beneath me now. Oh, good grief, I did make a slight mistake here. It's a good thing the electric charge hasn't run out yet, but at least we would get a warning. I should turn on the fuel cells. Especially because we're using life support here. Good catch there. Right, 10 minutes. Are we still looking okay? Of course the planet is, or the moon is rotating slightly there. And we have no signal. Ah, well, we've passed our burn a little bit, that's alright. Hopefully we'll get it back. I bet we were bouncing it off something there because we're already on the far side. Right, let's see. No specific area. I think that one might be good actually, but what's that? Landing beacon. We even have a beacon here. Oh no, that's not there. That's on the other side of the moon. Okay, stop there. We'll try this area. It looks nice and flat, so I'll just cancel that and do a new one. Right, let's see. Now 2 minutes again. And we have our signal back, at least. Burn. 300 meters. You see, I don't think this would be enough to do a landing properly. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to use the final engine for the actual landing. But this one is the braking stage. Right, so this does look like a decent area. We can see the slope up here. That's another benefit from Kerbal Engineer. But of course we're too high at the moment. In the literal sense, not the metaphorical one. That is the thing about mods though. They look nice, but for performance I might just have to get rid of those clouds. But I'll first try and update them, if it's available. Right, let's do another burn here. I like to be a bit cautious here, so we'll just phase our landing approach here. And that's it. So we're already 5.7 kilometers away. And we only have 17 meters left, so it worked out well. Just do what we can. Cancel that. Ditch the stage. And ignite the next one. And extend the gear. Now the test that I did have some fuel left over, so I think we'll be alright. Okay, let's not go too aggressive here. So yes, we don't have a ladder. That's relatively easy to add in, so I'm not worried about that. It was just really about the proof of concept here. Now we are accelerating too much. Let's just put a stop on that. Slope is 7.3, even 8 degrees. That's a lot more than I would have thought. Hmm, 9 degrees, 7. Well, the good thing is that we do have a wide base at the bottom, so we should be fine. There goes the other stage. Of course, ideally we want it to completely disintegrate here, but I think we might have some left. Another souvenir from our visit. Okay, we're 2 kilometers away. And that's still another thing that Kerbal Engineer does well. It at least shows you the altitude above the terrain, although I know there are other mods that also do that. Right, that thing is still flying off into the distance there. So I think let's get this thing going a bit slower now. Still have 1.2 kilometers left. I think that's more than enough. So at the end of the day, we're not too inefficient. I know we had a bit of extra fuel on that moon transit stage, or the 3 attachments on the side anyway. Now we're going to try to do this as slowly as possible. These things are still on auto, but they do have a tendency to bounce for some reason. And the heroes of communism are going to land on the moon. Of course, the N1 brethren have already done that, but it makes a worthy addition. Now we're getting other graphics glitches here. It's inevitable. That's definitely mods. 9 meters, 81, 60, 50, 40, 30, little bit more. Not so much. Slow it down, slow it down, slow it down. 1 meter per second. And we have touchdown. Now, of course, because we have the slope here, it's not ideal, but at least we didn't bounce this time. Right, everything off, and F5, we are here. Of course, this would be the point to cue the appropriate music, but our communist heroes have been here before, so I think we can skip on the formalities this time. So, who shall it be? I think Valentina has been here before, so let's take Franklin. Just because we have to do at least the planting of the flag. Right, we're not going to have a long stay here. Agabo, you're next. And we will just land there and then we go back for Valentina. So I guess, you know, the good thing is here at least all 3 Kerbals get to land on the moon, unlike Apollo. But I should still try doing the Apollo direct ascent at some point. Right, so Valentina, you are the most experienced Kerbal here, so we are going to have you plant the great flag. And there is the thumbnail for this video. Bang! Right, so at least you know where that came from. So this site name will just be UR-700 and communism prevails. Well, in some sense, perhaps. Right, let's go home. Let's go. That was all. It was just a footprints and flag exercise. Grab and board and go back. So yes, comrades, still do leave me your suggestions. I think we can improve this further, and it should ideally be our rocket, you know, it being communist and all. It's not my rocket, it's our rocket. Just grab there, board, and go back. He's looking like, what am I doing here? That's of course the new animations for... Well, now he's all shocked. Oh well, it's not that bad, don't worry about it, Franklin. We'll make it back. Grab and board again. We didn't even bother with the sample, but that's alright. Now, this part, this is where my test went a little wonky here, because when I separated, this thing was spinning all over the place. So let's see if we can avoid that now. We'll F5 again. Now, we should only burn a little bit and then try to detach. Let's see if we can do that. Go, 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 go. Right, at least it's still standing, so that's one thing. It's another souvenir. Now we follow the 90, and depending on where we are, we might even just do a direct descent back home as well. But I think we're a little too far. If we were here somewhere, we could just do a direct burn home. And there we go. So another mission, at least. 7, 8. We'll wait until we're about 15 on the apoapse before we cut the engine. And we have more than enough fuel, at least. Right, that's that. On the way home, our brave heroes of communism. Our brave comrades, I should say. Just go to apoapse when we are able. Right, now, let's go. Far side crater, that's where we were. 30 seconds, and we can just go until here and prograde. Now, where are we now? Still a bit too far there, close to the horizon line here. So we'll just place ourselves in an orbit and then wait a little and then make our return. There's Minmus. Now isn't that a picture? Let me F1 that. It's rare that we see it like that, you know, right on the edge there. That's a worthy one. This could be a thumbnail as well. F1. Okay, we're in an orbit, not a very good one, but it works. So I think let's go to the new periapse and then we'll just make the burn home. It seems we're going down a little bit, so let's not... 7 kilometers is not too bad though. There's some debris from a previous visit. Right, let's do it here. I think this is far enough. And burn. Make sure we don't hit the moon there. Right, still 300 meters left. And we just wait till about 20 or so. Maybe a bit above that. Oh, 9 kilometers. I guess we're going to have a bit of a sharp re-entry there. But we should be fine. Right, let's go home, comrades. We've done our bit for General Secretary and country. I will see you closer to Kerbin. Right, good grief, had a heart attack there. I was time warping too fast. Don't do that again. Now we can just retrograde. I think, actually, no, let's try and increase our altitude there. We don't really have to, but we have the fuel, so let's go up to about 25. Just to make it as comfortable as possible for our cosmonauts. And that's good enough. Turn back to retro, and now just close the antenna. We're close enough for the inbuilt one to work now. And detach the stage. We still have enough life support for a few days actually, which is good because we haven't been using the capsule's life support. Now it looks like we're going to have a night re-entry, which is less than ideal, but at least you'll see the flames nicely there. So I'll see you closer to the motherland, comrades. At least we hope so. Okay, almost there. We'll pretend this is the motherland we are approaching here. And I have to say, for some bizarre reason, I'm getting over 30 frames now. I even had 60 at some point. And we are not just going into the atmosphere, we're also getting heating effects here. So I'm not sure what that is. Might be something specific parts with high counts, you know, for the frames. I don't know. Higher impact than others. I'm not sure. Now it's as smooth as butter again. That's how it goes, I guess. Okay, we can go back now with that and just put our lights on again and prepare for the landing. Of course, we'll just wait until we are subsonic here. And then we will ditch the capsule top there. Of course, this is exactly the same as the Apollo one. Of course, we don't have many options for parts there, and the UR-700 does have a very pointy shape, so it kind of works. I could try and put another kind of nose cone right at the top there for the antenna to sit on. That might look a bit better. I'll try that. We will also lose the antenna in just a moment when we separate. 400, now we're back down to 12 frames per second. It's definitely the clouds. It's definitely a problem. Have to do something about that. You even see the lightning and stuff in the background. That's all part of the culprit right there. And I know it wasn't always like that, so it must be because it's out of date. I'm not sure. I might just disable it permanently and find another mod. I'm not sure. Anyway, we're low enough now and slow enough so we can ditch that, and there goes the antenna as well. Let's hope this is an unpopulated area. Now for this one I'm just using 4 parachutes here. I have no idea what the real one would have had, and of course I did 3 for the Apollo capsule, so I thought why not do 4 here. And then we just land. I'm not going to separate the heat shield. I think also with the Apollo I shouldn't do that. Of course it doesn't matter, and you can play it any way that you like. But yes, by the time this video is live you will find this craft on the Steam workshop. Just have a look for UR-700 and for my Steam name, Zirgia, Z-I-R-G-I-A. And let's release the chutes. I should have done that a bit earlier, but still fine. And I'm afraid to speed it up, but let's do it anyway. Right, let's not time warp through the parachutes. What was that? 7 Gs? That's not too bad. And we have a nice slow descent here at 5.3 meters per second, so not too bad, I would say. 200 meters, 150, 100, and almost there. Nice grassland. I'm sure there are some nice communal farms in this area. Right, so that's it, comrades. We are back home. It was a successful test. I think with all things in mind, it wasn't that bad of an attempt at the UR-700. So yes, I just have to say also, I'm looking forward to another game called Soviet Republic Workers and Resources. That is one I'm definitely going to be playing on this channel because it suits us very well, comrades. And also it's close to Transport Fever, which I also love. And I have to say, in the last month, I have been playing that more than Kerbal Space Program. Of course, a heavily modded one, which comes with its own problems. But anyway... So at some point I'll be doing some Transport Fever videos again. I know I still have to, and I've had a special request that I should finish the campaign for Transport Fever, and I will. I still will. I promise it will happen at some point. But yes, I'll also try my absolute best to do another Kerbal video soon as possible. So I am still here. I am still on YouTube, and I'm still active, comrades. Yes, so that's it. Leave me your comments. Let me know where we can improve. Of course, starting with adding a ladder, we might need that. Although, of course, practically we don't really need that. And I will see you again soon, hopefully. Have a fantastic day, comrades. It always is a pleasure to see your comments and to hear from you. So, let's continue. Let the revolution live long.